Event of UFC 310 will be the welterweight bout between Belal Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmanov. It will be Bilal's first title defense against the undefeated challenger in Shavkat. Belal is on a 11-fight win streak and hasn't lost in nearly 6 years. Shavkat is 18-0 and all 18 fights have been finishes, mostly in the first round. On one hand, we have Belal, who hardly manages to finish a fight. On the other hand, we have Shavkat, who finishes everyone. They are the complete polar opposites of each other. Belal is the only UFC champion in the roster who doesn't have a finish in his resume. He has often been labeled as a boring fighter who just overwhelms his opponents to get his hands raised. But whatever one says about Belal, he has managed to get his hands raised, and that's what matters. He has turned a corner in his life after training with Khabib. The results are there for everyone to see. He made light work of Sean Brady, who was undefeated at the time. Not only did he nullify his wrestling, he hurt him with his stand-up. The pressure from Belal was insane, and he didn't get tired. That was followed by a drubbing of Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns is known for his grappling and jiu-jitsu, but he couldn't do anything with Belal. And also Belal looked so much bigger and stronger than Burns in that fight. He hurt him with his stand-up again, with those big leg kicks. And then the virtuoso performance over Leon Edwards in a title fight. He completely dominated Leon over 5 rounds. Leon couldn't handle the pressure and the wrestling of Belal. Once again, the cardio was on point, and what was more impressive was that he hurt Leon Edwards on the feet. When the threat of the takedown is there, it opens up new avenues for striking. It was Belal's best performance ever. He realized his dream of becoming the UFC welterweight champion. And also, he has kept his word about facing the toughest challenges out there. Shavkat, the Nomad Rakhmanov, is one of the toughest challenges in the welterweight division. Nobody wants to fight him. This guy finishes everyone. Styles make fights, and this fight is definitely a clash of styles. Whatever Belal is good at, Shavkat is also good, if not better. For the first time, Belal is fighting someone who can match his wrestling. Not the American style of wrestling, but the Dagestani style of wrestling. Shavkat is from Kazakhstan, and over there, all the fighters more or less know how to wrestle. It's the first thing they're taught. And Shavkat has trained with Khabib and his dad way before Belal has. So he's familiar with the grind from a very young age. And unlike many fighters emanating from that region, Shavkat is a good striker. Most of his fights have finished in the first round itself. Here is someone who would not be surprised with Belal's takedown attempts. Shavkat is ruthless and he does get hit. His fight with Jeff Neal is a perfect example. He takes 2 shots to land one of his. It's this eagerness to fight that might cost him against an elite striker. But Shavkat held his own against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's probably one of the best kickboxers to ever step foot in the octagon. But Rakhmanov with his wrestling negated him and ultimately stopped him. The only concern with Shavkat is that of late he hasn't been that active. His last fight was in December 2023. So it would almost be 1 year till he fights again. Well, Belal has been continuously fighting, Shavkat hasn't. He has had his own share of injuries. That will definitely play its part, No matter how good you are, if you're not fighting, you are bound to be a bit rusty. One thing is for sure, Shavkat will be prepared, and his style is all wrong for Belal. And Shavkat is someone who goes for the finish. He has not fought 5 rounds in his UFC career. So if Belal can resist the initial onslaught and take it deep, it will be easier for him. Shavkat hasn't been tested yet. How will he react in the championship rounds? How will his body react? How will his cardio hold? What if he can't finish Belal in the first couple of rounds? These are all questions that are still unanswered. Hopefully, we'll get an answer at the main event of UFC 310. It's a cracking fight. Also, making his comeback at UFC 310 is Nick Diaz. At the age of 41, he will be fighting against Vicente Luque. Diaz last fought 3 years ago in 2021 against Robbie Lawler. And it was an awful performance. Nick Diaz looked every bit of 38 years that he was at that time. Now, 3 years have passed since then. He is bound to get even more slower. So what's the use of this pointless matchup? This does nothing for Diaz or for Luque. Luque, who is 10 years younger than Nick, he has been on quite a slide. He was knocked out by Joaquin Buckley in March, and previously he has been in ups and downs in his UFC career. And a win over Nick Diaz won't do much for his confidence because he's supposed to win that fight. Nick Diaz has had 2 fights in the last 10 years. And he has had multiple losses. He has 10 losses in his UFC career. So to bring him back just for the notoriety at the age of 41 might not be the best idea of the UFC. Nick Diaz is a shadow of his former self. He no longer has that charisma about him. It's just the name of Diaz that stuck with the UFC fans and that reverberates in the octagon every time he and his brother steps in to fight. But his best days are way past him. Another fight that takes place in the UFC 310 is a rematch between Ciryl Gane, the number 2 ranked heavyweight, and Alexander Volkov, the number 3 ranked heavyweight. This match took place previously and Ciryl had his hands raised. But since then, Alexander Volkov has been on quite a roll. His latest performance over Sergey Pavlovich was certainly most impressive. And with his striking, he managed to absolutely overwhelm Sergey. Sergey, who is a heavy-handed monster, had no answer for the precise strikes of Volkov. Now, Ciryl Gane is also a striker. Again, it's the kind of matchup that is favorable for Gane, 2 elite strikers fighting it out for superiority. But after what happened to Ciryl in the matchup against Jones, one would have thought that his comeback fight against a wrestler would have been the better choice. At least, there would have been some hints at how he's improving or he's not improving as a grappler. He is already an elite striker. And we have seen this match before. It's kind of meaningless to have that same kickboxing type fight between 2 elite strikers. There's no point in this. But it's the number 2 ranked heavyweight versus the number 3 ranked heavyweight. And the winner will most definitely be in line for a title shot whenever it takes place. Let me know in the comment section what you feel. And if you like the content, please like, share and subscribe to the channel.